Hey, this is WK4DS, and I'm going to give you my perspective on the FTX-1 from Yaesu that was recently announced, because I'm a longtime QRP user. I use CW real heavily, and I've got experience with many different QRP radios, so I feel like I can give you a kind of a weighted average value added opinion. My general thoughts on the FTX-1 when it was released was that it was a ICOM killer. It's an ICOM IC705 on steroids. Everything about the FTX-1 in comparison to the ICOM IC705 is better. Has a better battery, a much larger battery. The IC705 uses just a standard HT battery. And the one on the FTX-1 looks to be some kind of a hybrid battery that's larger, so it has more ampacity and it'll run longer. I used my IC705 when I had mine with the battery at times, and it would limit it to 5 watts, but that was fine. I mean, when you're doing QRP CW, 5 watts and 10 watts are essentially the same. I don't even think you get an S unit difference. It's very close. Point is that the runtime will be crazy good with that battery because the IC705 also has a touch screen. Something I liked about the FTX-1 from Yaesu that I saw was that you could get it with an antenna tuner module that attaches to the radio. The IC705 has a remote mounted antenna tuner, so you coaxed over to a tuner and then it would you would attach a long wire or a random wire to the tuner, which would actually tune up your wire antenna. It was meant for field deployable random wire antenna use is what the idea was. I guess you could run a resonant wire, but it didn't matter. It was, it was a remote tuner, and I had mine set up with about a 8-foot piece of coax, and I had built up a little cable, but I just put it on one end of the picnic table, and I had my radio system on the other end, and I never went past that. You were supposed to haul that thing up into the tree with the antenna. I never did any of that. Something that stood out to me first right away about the radio was the display, just to be honest with you. All the radios in modern today work really well for CW. So that portion of the radio is going to work good. They all do. But the display on the FTX-1 was very impressive, if you have to ask me. I love the way they make the waterfall look 3D. That's just cool. I'm sorry. It just is. It's also well laid out, and the numbers are easy to read, and it's not cluttered. The other radios I have, some of them are pretty well laid out. Some of them are cluttered. Some of them are really small. That's another wonderful thing about it is the size of the displays are large. Large displays make it easier for old eyes to see them. It's just a fact. Let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room here. How does it stack up against other radios in its operational envelope, or whatever that term is? From the looks of things, it's going to be like either close to the leader of the pack or the leader of the pack in pretty much every specification. Now, it'll have to be tested, and all that'll be done by a third party. You know how that works. I think it's Sherwood does that. But at the end of the day, it looks like it's an easier to use radio than, say, a KX3 or a 705 or even my S-Bit-X. The S-Bit-X is a little techie. I've been using it a lot, and once you use it some and you get used to it, it's pretty easy to use. But out of the chute, it's not super intuitive. It's okay. It works pretty well. But it's like you got to get used to the interface and just how it works. But with the FTX-1 from Yaesu, it looks like it's pretty intuitive out of the box. And that's something I really like in a radio that I'm going to be doing Parks on the Air with, because I don't want to have to try and remember how to use the radio. And speaking of that, we'll get to, hold that thought. Something that really applies to being used to the radio is modularity. And they just showed it with a 100-watt power amplifier module that it looks like it just literally plugs into to couple up with it. That means that you will be able to just simply take your same radio with all of the settings and all of the adjustments, just like you like it, unplug it from the 100-watt amplifier module, which and it's got some UHF and VHF power outputs. I have 50 watts on them. But take it, put it in a Pelican case or, a hard shell case with foam to protect it, carry it to your park, set it up, activate the park with the exact same radio, not another radio with similar settings, the radio you use. That's pretty cool. Now, you can do that with other radios. It's, the KX3 has the KPA 100. There are other options, but they're not as economical. I think the KPA 100 amplifier module costs as much as the Yaesu FTX-1 does with the radio and the amplifier added together. So this is really targeting that demographic. What would be a POTA radio for WK40S if it wasn't a CW machine? So I'm looking forward to getting my hands on one and trying to use it to activate a park to see what all the characteristics of CW are like using that radio. The CW timing, the iambic B and the straight key modes, how easy they are to switch back and forth. Like on the SBitX, you just hit a button and it just toggles through them and it's on the display. It's super easy to get to straight key mode. Say you want to work a straight key Century Club contact. You can literally just hit the button like one time and use, I think it's the left paddle as a straight key. And you can do a legit SKCC contact immediately. You don't even have to get a different key out. I can set up my Bengali Traveler and turn it on its side and use it as a straight key on the SBitX. So I'm looking to see how easy the FTX-1 from Yaesu is going to be to do that and to do things like adjust side tone, the volume of it, as well as the pitch. I like my pitch to be in between 600 and 650 hertz. I like my side tone to typically be lower than the audio of the frequency spectrum I listen to, like the other station. I like them to be louder than my side tone. And that's because I'm running full break-in keying. And that's another thing. I'm curious to see what the break-in's like. If you're using full break-in keying like on a 10-tech, you can hear them between your characters. So if you know they're coming in, you can stop sending and you can see what they're saying. It's really nice. And typically, Yaesu's got good keying. So I'm curious to see how much better or how good the keying is going to be in this POTA-specific radio. And on that, speaking of being able to hear the other party on the contact, what's the receiver performance going to be? With new SDR radios, they can build them so compact. And with surface mount technology getting so good, a filter section goes from, a circuit board this big down to just little tiny things. And with active DSP filtering, which is just a chip now that they send the signal through, it could fit. You could have world-class receiver performance in a tiny form factor just like this with no issues. So I'm coming into this thinking that it's going to have world-class receiver performance, and it kind of needs it to be a field deployed radio. You need good receiver performance so you can hear weak signals because you're already using a compromised antenna. So you need the best receiver you can get, and they know that. So I'm pretty sure they're going to be probably putting some of the tech from some of their big FTDX series radios in it to be able to get that really, really good low signal strength, be able to dig them out of the noise CW signals, or even sideband for that matter, whatever you do. But still, it will have a wonderful receiver if I had to guess. It just has to. Now, speaking of field deployable, we gotta talk about the second elephant in the room that just walked in from the other side, and that's POTA and SOTA. For me, or Worldwide Flora and Fauna, that's also another field deployed radio system. But still, for me, I do parks on the air. I don't do SOTA where you hack in. I just don't have time. If I had time to do the long hikes to the peaks and do all that, I probably would, because I like deploying a radio in the field with a compromised setup and then making contacts with it. There's just some kind of a sense of accomplishment when you do that. And for me, I can afford the time that POTA takes, because it's a lot simpler rule set. You know, it's not as difficult. It's got a lower barrier to entry. So I do parks on the air. And for me, this radio has all of the hallmarks of a wonderful parks on the air radio. Would it replace one of my other ones that I currently use? If one of them died, it would. If I really, really wanted one for sideband, because I do sideband on two of them right now, the Ten-Tech Scout and S-Bit X, both will do really well on sideband. I might consider it for a sideband machine. Me and Aaron did a bunch of sideband with his KX3 down in Florida back at Hamcation. And we were using 10 watts and it was working just fine. We made a bunch of contacts with sideband with it. I mean, it was a great radio. So it's a tough call. It's a tough call. I would have, I have this big stack of radios just out of camera shot here, and they don't see a lot of use. I hunt POTA with them, and I chat with my buddies around here on them. But do I do a lot of DX chasing? I'm not a big DX chaser. If I get DX in the log, I'm kind of stoked, but I don't go out looking for it. So, for me, a W4 contact in the next county over is just as exciting as someone in Botswana. It's the same difference to me. I'm using my radio to talk to another person physically somewhere else. I don't know why, but it's always been that way. And I can't see this radio edging out any of my other ones just because of what it has in the box. But it's a wonderful radio, but I would have to have one die, and then I would probably seriously consider it as a replacement, because going forward, I want newer machines in my arsenal as opposed to really, really old ones, because really, really old ones, while being capable of being worked on, I have learned over the last couple of years, parts availability makes it almost impossible to fix some of them. So, if a certain chip goes bad in my Omni 6 Plus, it's just a piece of scrap metal. There's no fixing it. The memory chips in them, they're getting rare, and you can't make new ones, and you can't buy them, and they're just not there. Certain chips, if they go bad, you can't get them. So I want really good performing radios that are modern, and that sometimes if they carry warranty service, that'd be nice too. That was one of the reasons I got the 705 when I did. I wanted a more modern rig that was current. We are now to the part of the video where I tell you the things that potentially kind of keep me concerned. That's not a long list, but there is a few concerns. One, the modularity thing, how it connects to the 100-watt amplifier. How many times is that connect and disconnect rated for before it starts giving you trouble? Because the plugs on the back of these radios, like this big Yaesu, not because it's Yaesu, but I have a FT736R UHF VHF all mode machine here, and the power connector on it is worn out. And I have to wiggle the plug and get it just right to get it to power on. It's just the way it is. But it's because it's made in the 80s. It's not because it's made by Yaesu. My Ten-Techs have other problems. The plugs on them, they get corroded over time. So is there going to be a problem with plugging it into that power amplifier module? Because I do lots of POTA. For me to do 200 or 300 a year is not unusual. So that would be 200 or 300 plug and unplug sessions, unless I just left it in the case in the floor or something. That's a genuine concern for me. Things like, how much is it going to cost to fully trick one out to where you can have the base rig and then the antenna tuner module and the battery module, and if you want a GPS in it, the GPS module, and all of them widgets after you add all that together? Is it going to cost $4,000? I mean, The KX3 is a pretty darn nice radio, and it has lineage, and they're the makers over at Elecraft. They make good stuff. They're good people. So is it marketing to make it look like it's a better price point with more features? Because once you add all of these little modules to it, is it going to make it so expensive that you could have got the Elecraft? I mean, that's something to consider. And now you also got to think about, well, how durable is it going to be in the field? The KX3, the KX2, the 705, the S-Bit X now for me, and my old Dentec machines, they're all pretty rugged radios, and they've got a proven track record. This one's brand new. No one's used it in the field yet, so what's it going to hold up like? I mean, seriously, if it gets a few drops of rain on it, is it going to kill it? We don't know. We'll have to see when it comes out. But it's a good, legitimate concern that you would just have to see once they hit the store shelves. Now, I guess the $62 question is, would I buy one? Well, I'm going to fall back to what I was saying earlier. If one of my other POTA machines that I have in my rotation dies, I like having 3 radios in my standard POTA rotation. That way, if one goes down, I still have a primary and a backup. So, and I have kind of inexpensive radios, but long story short is I would like to see one of these make its way into my rotation. If one of my other ones croaked for some reason, like lightning hit it, or something just went bad and you couldn't fix it, I would give it a shot because it's a good looking radio. Yeah. So if you've got any questions about the new Yaesu FTX-1, drop them in the comment section. Let us hear what you got to say, because we're interested. And it's looking like it's going to be a great time for ham radio coming up. So if y'all haven't done it yet, look for Aaron. Aaron's going to be at Hamvention, and rumor has it he might have stickers. So, you never know. But that's all I've got to really say about this Yaesu FTX-1 radio. So until next time, this is WK4DS 73.